Welcome to another recording for COM3706. I hope you can hear me. As I said last time, actually, today we will be discussing literature review and theory. Basically, I'm just going to take you through some of these guidelines that have already been provided or given in your tutorial letter 101 and also in your assignment 1 guidelines. So what you need to do there is to basically go through those guidelines on the mark scheme, see what is expected of you in each section. And as I said earlier, I will start with a longer section, the sections with more marks. That is 10 marks, which is your literature review and your theoretical framework and the methodology, the research methodology. That is 10 marks. But please, you should have by now, you should have started working on your assignment and you should be almost done. And as I said earlier, this assignment is a lot of work. So you really need to start on time. By now, at least you should be doing your literature review. If you haven't started already, I know of students who have already done and who've read all the articles that were listed in tutorial letter 101. That is great. If you have read all the articles, that is great. You don't need to rewrite your literature or anything or even stop. So please make sure that you do this assignment on time and follow the guidelines. So in your mark scheme, for instance, for your assignment 1, the literature review section there is out of 10 marks. And here I've broken down all the points or areas that you need to focus on. So if you go to your tutorial letter or the assignment 1 guidelines, you will see this in your on the mark scheme. For instance, firstly, by means of a literature review, identify what other studies reveal about the uses and gratifications of social media in other countries around the world. You're also expected to discuss how other people throughout the world use social media for self-gratification purposes by means of previous studies. And also, while reviewing previous studies on this subject, identify key areas or themes that push people to use and derive gratification from social media networks. Identify areas of concern, negative effects. Again, please make sure that your focus should be on negative effects that come with the use of social media networks for self-gratifications. And the articles that have been recommended for you, they mostly focus on negative effects such as addiction, social media addiction. All right, so starting with the first point, what has been identified as the uses and gratifications of social media. And again, remember all these studies use the uses and gratifications network to study social media uses and gratifications and consequences. We will discuss just a minute, I'm trying to make sure that you can see the slide. Okay, I think it is visible. So we will discuss the theory, the uses and gratifications theory in detail when we discuss the theoretical framework. So basically what the studies show is that social media is mostly used for social interaction, where people interact with friends, with strangers, with similar interest. For instance, people form online communities, whether it's book clubs, people who like sport, people do form groups on social media based on likes. And what is also important here in terms of the uses and gratifications theory is that the theory was developed very early from the 1940s and became more popular in the 60s when there was no social media. So some of these uses and gratifications of of the media are have only been identified, but although some are similar to the uses and gratifications of mass media or traditional media, your broadcast and print media. So what the studies have identified, and the studies I'm referring to here are the studies that have been recommended for you, especially on your assignment one guidelines. So social media, your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, and a whole lot of other social media are mostly used to interact with friends, strangers, people you went to school with that you've missed for a long time. So social media makes it easy to reconnect with your even childhood friends. So it is mostly used for social interaction and also for information seeking, the how-tos, how to do some things, self-discovery, learning about yourself, your personality type, because there's a whole lot of information that is now freely available on social media and made freely available even by experts. People are qualified to give such information. And also in terms of information seeking, most media companies, your ENCAs, your News 24, even in New York Times, I mean, various media companies like print media companies and even broadcast SABC is available on Twitter or even on Facebook. So you can even get news via social media. And also related to that is convenience utility, because now you can just get news from your phone, without rushing home to listen to your radio or to watch TV. So it's very much easier to get everything on your on social media, especially when we are using your cell phones. And also what has also been identified in one of the studies is social media makes it, easier. It's very it's convenient. Like you can do your online shopping or even online window shopping, just go shop through, looking for things. Yeah, it's very easy now. And especially since COVID, most companies now do online shopping and do deliveries. So social media is also, it's used for convenience. Also, it's used for relaxation, for entertainment. And also, social media is unlike your traditional mass media. People can also share on social media. They can also share information. People can now become influencers. People who share interesting or attention-grabbing information can easily become influencers, whether by sharing their images, sharing information, starting their own YouTube channels, news channels for that matter. We know for entertainment journalists on YouTube, who just started their own YouTube pages or other platforms where they just share information. So these are some of the uses and gratifications of social media that have been identified. And this is not all. Please make sure that you read those articles, and when you write, to expect that you would provide detail. So these are just this is just a brief discussion, or even a summary of what has been identified in previous studies. And then the next point is discuss how other people throughout the world use social media for self-gratification studies. For self-gratification purposes. So some of the studies that were recommended in your reading list, some have paid attention to Twitter as to how people have used, Twitter, whether for entertainment or information seeking purposes. Other studies have paid attention to how individuals use Facebook. Other studies have paid attention to how individuals use all social media platforms. Basically, some of these studies say that individuals use more than one platform at a time. Some people they use Twitter, they also have Facebook accounts, Instagram, YouTube, all social medias that are available, all social media that are available. They part of it. And then others can only use maybe one platform for various reasons. And also remember, in Africa, the issue of language can also be limiting, especially on platforms that use English most of the time. Although other languages are used. So South African social media, particularly Twitter, it seems they tend to use more English. So for people who are not who don't speak the language, whether because of literacy, they never had the opportunity to go to school, or because they studied in other countries using other languages. They might find using some of these, for instance, your hashtags would always tend to be mostly in English, although we do have other languages, and also who you follow determines the language that you get to see on social media. So these studies also, give information on how people have used this social media and for what purposes. And this is what you're expected to explain in your literature review. Next, you are expected to identify key areas or themes that push people to use and derive gratification from social media networks. So the uses and gratifications theory basically states that what drives people to use media or to seek gratification from media or social media, social and psychological needs. Ferris et al., for instance, says contextual age is one of the drivers of social media use, or leads makes people to have certain needs that make them use social media. So this contextual age they basically break it down. It has 3 elements. One, life satisfaction, which is the degree to which one feels happy with one's life. Social activities, the second element, which is whether an individual has an active social life with friends or family or not. Interpersonal interaction, whether an individual has access to important others like friends or family. For instance, if you're in another country outside your own home country, where you have less access to family or friends, you're likely to use, or even in another province, you're likely to use social media to interact with your friends or family. So these are the social and psychological needs that lead people to use social media. Ferris et al. Referred this to contextual age, drawing from previous studies. And also other factors such as stress, physical mobility, and this is, very similar to life satisfaction, especially stress. Physical mobility, where an individual, for instance, cannot move, and also environmental factors. Remember our lockdown, when people couldn't get out of home and were forced to communicate online. So there's various social and psychological needs. These needs then lead people to have a desire to use media, for instance, to interact with others, to relax, to run away from the stress that they experience in their personal lives, whether the stress could be lockdown, for instance, the inability to go outside your home, it could be politics, it could be protests and any other social or even political, for that matter, and psychological issues that drive people to use or to need social media. And then next, you have to pay attention to in your literature review, you are also asked to pay attention to the key